What if I told you that 2026 is about to deliver the greatest movie lineup in over a decade, and the best part hasn't even started yet? We're talking about the return of legendary franchises, $400 million productions, Oscar-winning directors, and at least 2 films that could rewrite box office history on the same weekend. If you've been waiting for a reason to go back to the theater, this is it. Here are the 15 most anticipated unreleased movies of 2026. And trust me, you need to see this list before everyone else does. But before we dive in, it would mean a lot if you took a second to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps this content coming. Thank you so much. 15. Street Fighter. They said it couldn't be done, not again. After the franchise's disastrous attempts in the past, a new creative team is taking on one of gaming's most iconic universes. Ryu and Ken return to the fight, this time pulled in by Chun-Li herself, who recruits them for the legendary World Warrior Tournament. But the tournament is just a front. Beneath the surface lies a dangerous conspiracy, and the fighters who enter may not all make it out. Director Kitao Sakurai brings a completely fresh visual energy to the project, stepping away from the campy tone that doomed previous adaptations. The cast chemistry is palpable, the fight choreography promises to be brutal and faithful to the source material, and the stakes feel genuinely high. This isn't nostalgia bait, it's a full-scale reimagining built for a generation that grew up pressing buttons furiously on a controller. Whether you've played every version of the game, or you're coming in cold, one thing is certain: Round 1 is going to hit different. And based on everything we've seen, this could be the video game adaptation the genre has been desperately waiting for. 14. Disclosure Day. What happens the day humanity stops asking the question? Not the day we search for the answer, but the day we actually find it. That is the premise driving this ambitious science fiction drama. The world wakes up to undeniable, irrefutable evidence that we are not alone in the universe. Not a signal, not a theory, proof. And from the moment that proof goes public, nothing governments, religions, economies, relationships will ever be the same again. The film isn't about aliens in the traditional sense. It's about us. About how different people, from world leaders to ordinary families, respond when the cornerstone of human exceptionalism crumbles overnight. Some will find liberation, others will find terror, and a select few will find opportunity. The script reportedly weaves together multiple perspectives across different countries, building a mosaic of panic, wonder, and raw human emotion. This is the kind of original science fiction that used to define Hollywood ambition, and it arrives at exactly the right cultural moment. In a world already questioning everything, the timing couldn't be more unsettling. 13. The Sheep Detectives. Nobody expected the year's most charming mystery to star a flock of sheep. And yet, here we are. When their beloved shepherd George is found dead under mysterious circumstances, a group of unusually clever farm animals decides to take matters into their own hooves. Having spent years listening to George read detective stories aloud during long evenings in the barn, they've absorbed enough crime-solving wisdom to mount a real investigation. What follows is a brilliantly constructed whodunit wrapped inside a comedy that works for every age. The humor is layered physical gags for the kids, sharp wit for the adults, and a mystery plot that's genuinely engaging for everyone. The animation style is tactile and warm, recalling the stop-motion charm of beloved British productions. But what elevates this beyond pure family entertainment is the emotional core. A story about loyalty, grief, and the lengths you'll go to for someone who made you feel seen. George may be gone, but his sheep aren't ready to move on, and neither will you be by the time the credits roll. 12. The Backrooms. It starts with a door you shouldn't open. A strange portal in the basement of an ordinary furniture store leads somewhere that defies every law of logic. A seemingly infinite network of fluorescent-lit corridors, outdated carpeting, and humming silence that stretches in every direction without end. There are no exits, there are no windows, and the longer you stay, the more you begin to realize you are not alone in there. Born from one of the internet's most unsettling modern myths, this film takes the creepypasta legend of the Backrooms and transforms it into a full cinematic nightmare. The horror here isn't jump scares or cheap gore, it's the relentless, suffocating dread of a place that simply should not exist. The production design is meticulously wrong in all the right ways, familiar enough to feel real, distorted enough to feel deeply off. As the characters spiral deeper, the line between the psychological and the supernatural begins to dissolve. This is the kind of horror that stays with you not because of what you saw, but because of what you couldn't quite identify in the shadows between the lights. 11. Mortal Kombat 2. The first fight was a warning. What comes next is war. After a brutal debut that exceeded all expectations, the sequel arrives with a mandate to go bigger, darker, and more brutally faithful to the games that built a generation. The heroes of Earthrealm, bloodied but standing, must now reunite and face the full force of Shao Kahn's dominion over Outworld. And this time, Johnny Cage joins the fight. His arrival shifts the tone. There's still carnage, but there's also charisma, friction, and a dynamic that injects fresh energy into the ensemble. The filmmakers have promised that this installment leans harder into the tournament mythology, the iconic fatalities, and the lore that hardcore fans have been dying to see realized on screen. The production budget is significantly larger, the fight sequences more elaborate, and the character arcs more developed. This is the film where the franchise either fulfills its enormous promise or collapses under the weight of expectation. Based on everything revealed so far, it's leaning dangerously close to fulfilling it, and fans are ready to test their might. 10. Masters of the Universe. By the power of Grayskull and after decades of false starts, failed pitches, and abandoned scripts, He-Man finally arrives on the big screen. A young man discovers he is the hidden heir to a kingdom on a distant alien world, and that his destiny is bound to a magical sword capable of transforming him into the most powerful man in the universe. But with that power comes an enemy just as legendary, Skeletor, whose army of darkness stands between the throne and total annihilation. Director Travis Knight brings a mythological weight to the material that previous adaptations never achieved. This isn't camp nostalgia, it's a full-blooded fantasy epic that treats the source material with the same reverence audiences have demanded for years. The world-building reportedly draws deep from the original mythology, giving Castle Grayskull and Eternia a lived-in grandeur. For those who grew up with the cartoon, this is the film they always imagined but never quite believed would happen. And for newcomers, it's the beginning of a franchise that intends to build something lasting. 9. Practical Magic 2. 28 years later, the curse is still breathing. Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman return as the Owen sisters Sally and Jillian in a sequel that picks up where the beloved original dared not go. The Owens family has been hexed for centuries. Any man who falls in love with them is doomed to die. And now, 3 generations of witches must come together to confront the source of that curse, once and for all. Based on Alice Hoffman's novel, The Book of Magic, the story expands the emotional universe of the original, digging into inherited trauma, the weight of bloodlines, and what it truly means to break a cycle that has defined your family for longer than anyone can remember. The film isn't just a sequel, it's a reckoning. Bullock and Kidman reportedly brought real creative pressure to ensure the follow-up honored the cult classic's delicate balance of magic, heart, and melancholy. The new generation of Owens women adds fresh tension, and the autumnal visual palette looks even more lush this time around. Some spells, it turns out, are worth casting twice. 8. Supergirl. Woman of Tomorrow. This isn't the Supergirl you remember. Millie Alcock takes on the cape in a film that refuses to be a traditional superhero origin story. Director Craig Gillespie strips away the triumphant music and city skylines and replaces them with something raw, a road movie across the stars, a journey through trauma, and a reckoning with what it means to be powerful in a universe that doesn't care. Kara Zor-El's story here is darker than anything the DC Universe has previously attempted for this character. She didn't arrive on Earth with hope in her heart. She arrived with memory, loss, and a lifetime of experiences that Superman never had to carry. The film explores those wounds without softening them. Early reactions from those who've seen footage describe the tone as somewhere between Logan and Mad Max, brutal, intimate, and surprisingly emotional. Alcock's performance is being called transformative. Gillespie, known for his character-first approach, has reportedly built something that transcends the genre entirely. This isn't just a superhero movie. It's a story about survival, and it arrives exactly when we need it. 7. Godzilla -0. The monster came. The monster destroyed. And somehow, what survived was even more terrifying. The sequel to the Oscar-winning phenomenon Godzilla -1 picks up in 1949. 2 years after the events that shattered post-war, Japan and director Takashi Yamazaki returns to a country that is still bleeding. The Shikishima family carries the weight of what they witnessed. And before they can begin to rebuild, something new rises from the ocean. Something that makes the first feel like a prelude. Yamazaki has spoken publicly about wanting to escalate not just the spectacle, but the emotional devastation. The first film was a masterpiece, precisely because the human story grounded every monster sequence in genuine grief. The sequel reportedly doubles down on that formula while expanding the mythology in directions nobody predicted. The visual effects team has described the new kaiju sequences as the most technically ambitious work they've ever produced, and this is the team that just won an Academy Award. When this arrives in theaters, bring something to wipe your eyes, not just from the awe, from the heartbreak. 6. The Mandalorian and Grogu. This is the way to the biggest screen possible. The franchise that reignited the world's love for Star Wars is leaving streaming behind and stepping into full cinematic territory. Pedro Pascal returns as Din Djarin, the Mandalorian warrior whose bond with his green-eared companion has become one of pop culture's most emotionally resonant relationships. The New Republic has a mission. Rada the Hutt needs to be rescued. And between the request and the outcome lies a gauntlet of dangers that will force both father figure and foundling to confront their shared history in ways the series never had the runtime to explore. Director Jon Favreau has described the film as a proper blockbuster, larger in scale than any single episode, built with the full weight of the Lucasfilm production machine behind it. After years of Star Wars misfires, the pressure on this film is enormous. But the chemistry between the characters, the mythology already established, and the sheer goodwill built over 2 beloved seasons suggest this could be the moment the franchise truly finds its footing again. May the odds be in its favor. 5. Spider-Man. Brand new day. Peter Parker lost everything. His identity, his relationships, his sense of who he is beneath the mask. And now, stripped of the protection of recognition, he has to rebuild not the hero, but the person. Tom Holland returns in what Marvel is billing as the most grounded, emotionally complex Spider-Man film yet. Directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, Brand New Day resets the hero's world without resetting the audience's investment. There's no multiverse safety net this time. There's just a young man who has to figure out whether the weight of what he carries is worth the life he's sacrificing. New enemies, unexpected allies including the Punisher and a Hulk whose allegiances aren't entirely clear push Peter into corners he's never navigated before. The tone is street-level and personal, a deliberate departure from the cosmic scale of recent MCU entries. Early buzz from insiders describes it as the most complete Spider-Man story told on film. That's a bold claim, but if it delivers, it won't just be the movie of the summer. It will be the one people talk about for years. 4. The Hunger Games. Sunrise on the Reaping. Before Katniss. Before the Revolution. Before hope became a weapon, there was Haymitch. Set 24 years before the events that changed Panem forever, this prequel plunges into the 50th Hunger Games, the Quarter Quell, the most brutal and deliberately cruel edition of the games in the district's memory. A young Haymitch Abernathy enters the arena, not yet broken, not yet drunk. Not yet the bitter, self-protective man that audiences came to know. What he finds inside will change him permanently. Director Francis Lawrence returns alongside author Suzanne Collins, who co-wrote the screenplay based on her own novel. Joseph Zada plays the young Haymitch, and Elle Fanning joins the cast in a role shrouded in secrecy. The film carries the weight of high expectation. The book's fan base is devoted and specific, and the pressure to honor both the source material and the legacy of the original films is significant. But early indicators suggest Collins and Lawrence know exactly what story they want to tell. Not a victory, a wound. One that explains everything. 3. The Odyssey. Christopher Nolan, Matt Damon. An entirely IMAX-shot adaptation of the oldest adventure story ever told. If that sentence doesn't make your pulse quicken, nothing will. After Oppenheimer redefined what a prestige blockbuster could be, Nolan turns his lens toward Homer's The Odyssey, the tale of Odysseus and his decade-long monster-haunted, God-cursed journey home after the fall of Troy. The cast assembled around Damon is staggering. Robert Pattinson, Zendaya, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Charlize Theron, and Mia Goth, each inhabiting corners of a world that is simultaneously mythological and devastatingly human. Nolan has described the film as an exploration of the distance between who we are when we leave and who we become by the time we return. Shot entirely with IMAX cameras, every frame promises to be a visual statement. Every sea, every monster, every divine intervention. This isn't just a movie about an ancient hero. It's a film about the cost of war long after the war has ended and the brutal question of whether home is still worth reaching. 2. Avengers: Doomsday. He's back. And this time, he's the villain. Robert Downey Jr. returns to the Marvel Cinematic Universe not as the billionaire genius who saved the world, but as Dr. Doom, the most terrifying and calculating antagonist the Avengers have ever faced. Anthony and Joe Russo are also back, reuniting the team that delivered Infinity War and Endgame, and the weight of expectation sitting on this film is unlike anything in recent Hollywood memory. The multiverse is fracturing. The Avengers are scattered, fractured by years of separate battles and diverging loyalties. And into that chaos steps a man or something wearing the face of a man who doesn't want to destroy the world. He wants to control it, permanently. Early reports describe a script that is structurally daring, emotionally sucker-punching, and calibrated to deliver the kind of communal cinema moment that audiences have been starving for since Endgame. On the same weekend as Dune, Part 3, the cultural event of the decade might not be a single film, it might be both of them, colliding. Whatever happens, December 18th will not be a quiet Friday. 1. Dune, Part 3. Every prophecy has a price. Paul Atreides became the Mahdi. He rode the sandworms. He won the war. But Denis Villeneuve's final chapter asks the question none of the spectacle answered. What happens when the Chosen One becomes the thing he swore to prevent? Timothée Chalamet returns as Paul now Padishah Emperor in an adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune Messiah, the novel that deliberately dismantled the hero's journey it had spent the first book constructing. This isn't a triumphant conclusion, it's a reckoning. Zendaya, Florence Pugh, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Jason Momoa fill out a cast, navigating a story about the corrupting nature of absolute power and the danger of gods made from men. Shot with IMAX cameras and confirmed for 70mm prints in select theaters, this promises to be one of the most visually breathtaking films ever committed to celluloid. Villeneuve has called it the most challenging film of his career. Herbert fans have waited decades for a faithful adaptation of the complete trilogy. And on December 18th, sharing a release date with Avengers, Doomsday, in what some are calling Doomsday, the stars of cinema align one more time. This is the ending. Make it count. And that's our top 15 most anticipated unreleased films of 2026. What a year this is shaping up to be. From the emotional return of beloved characters to Christopher Nolan rewriting the rules of cinematography one IMAX frame at a time. If this video gave you something new to look forward to, it would mean the world if you took a second to drop a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video like this. Which one are you most excited for? Drop it in the comments, I genuinely want to know. See you in the next one.